Good day, my name is Eddie Robinson and I will be teaching you this session on how to practically teach a class, how to present it as the facilitator. I'm going to take you through 7 steps which we want you to use every time that you teach the live school. When you're presenting a video session, if you follow these 7 steps, it will really help you to do it the right way and that you will get the right outcome. In the beginning it will feel a little bit mechanical as you do it, but later on as it becomes more of a habit, then it will just come to you naturally. So we want you to write down what these 7 steps are, because afterwards we may ask you to present this after this video session, after this training session. So write down the 7 steps, and afterwards your trainer might come to you and say, right, we want you to present the session, and then you need to use these 7 steps to do it right here in the class with your fellow students. So write them down. The first step is number 1, be prepared before the students arrive. Be prepared before the students arrive. The first thing that I want to say about that is the place where you're going to have your classes must be ready. Make sure it's quiet. Make sure there are enough seats there. Make sure your TV is there, that it's working. Make sure that your unit is there, that it's also in working condition, that there might be some plug adapters that you need. Make sure you've got everything ready before the students get there. The next thing I want to say about that is that you need to know the session that you will be teaching, or it might be sessions that you are teaching. So before the students arrive, you need to know what is the session I'm teaching, and you need to be ready to give a brief introduction to that session. Let's say that you know that this is God's ways and it's going to be about servanthood. You want to know that so that you can tell them that this is more or less what this teaching is going to be about. And then lastly, about this first point, is you need to pray personally before the time and ask the Lord to use you, to help you, because in a sense you are going to teach these people, you want to minister to them, and you really want the Holy Spirit to work through you as you present these teachings. So that was the first point of how to present a class, is make sure that you are prepared and the classroom is prepared before the session starts. The second point we want you to write down is collect the 1-page notes and do your attendance register. Collect the notes and attendance register. Now, you will hear more about this later, but every student is required to write a 1-page essay for every 1 video session that they watch. So if they watch 2 teachings today, 2 videos, then they're required to write these 2 pages, 1 for each session. This is not a summary of the session. This is a what did I learn from this session that they write down on that, and we will talk about that more later. So at this stage of you presenting your class, you collect those notes from the students. And those notes are there for you to read. You as the facilitator will read each student's notes, and it will show you whether this student really comprehends what they are learning. Because it's important that they understand, and this is one of the few ways that you can really understand what they understand from these sessions. The other thing that these 1-page notes will help you with is to see what ministry needs some of these students have. You know, as they go through character development courses, and there are different ones, it might be that, you know, the teaching highlights some area in their life that needs to be addressed, and they need to get forgiveness or healing in a certain area of their life. And as you read these things, you will quickly notice that this person needs help in a certain area. Now these notes, these 1-page notes that you collect from the students at this stage, you want to file them properly. What some facilitators do is they'll have a file on each student, and every week they just put these notes in there, and that way it's all in one place. Also, your trainer here today, or us from Live School, might come and visit your school, and we actually want to see those notes. We want to read them because we also want to get an understanding of what the students really understand and what they are going through as they go through these teachings. So very important to collect those. So point number 2 is collect the notes and take the attendance register. The attendance register, we say there, we're not going to give you a specific format, but basically what we want to know is, was the student in the class? Did he watch that specific session or sessions, and on what date was it? So your register would just simply show the student was there and they did watch every session. And this again is something that your trainer here today or another live school staff member might want to see. And remember that it is part of the graduation requirements that the students attend the classes and that they do complete these one-page notes. If they don't complete them, we cannot graduate the student, because it's our only way to see whether the student really was in the class and whether they really understood the work. So that's number 2, attendance register and collecting the notes. Number 3, and remember, please write these down, is start with worship and prayer. These students of yours that you will be training, they have just come in from, most probably work or home, and all kinds of things have happened to them, and their minds might be on, something bad that happened or work, or, the cow is missing, or, you just don't know what people deal with every day. And they come into your class and their minds are on those things. And in a sense, you want to help them turn their minds away from that to the Lord and open themselves up to what the Holy Spirit might want to do in their lives on that day. So that's why we have worship and prayer. Very important, especially in your part-time schools, is time is a factor. This needs to be maybe 5 or 10 minutes, a time of worship and prayer. Be careful that it doesn't become 30 minutes and eventually you finish your classes so late because you spend too long on worship and prayer. So it's a brief period that you do that. So that's point number 3, start with worship and prayer. The 4th point that we want you to write down is that you need to do revision of the previous session or sessions that you have already watched. Remember, these students, since the last class, it could have been a few days, it could have been a few weeks, and they've kind of forgotten what they learned in the previous sessions, or, they just need to be able to make that connection between the last sessions and what you are doing today. So you want to do a bit of a revision. Might be something like, remember last week we watched God's Ways, and the teacher was speaking about servanthood and the importance of servanthood and how Jesus set the example, and you just sort of trigger their minds to think that's what we did last week, and that will help them be ready for what they're learning today. You also want to ask some questions. Again, you're not sure what they understood and what they didn't understand, and you might say, well, last week what did we learn, or what stood out for you, or did you understand this concept that the teacher was talking about? And just ask a few questions just to see, do they still remember, and did they really understand? And then lastly, you do want to give them the opportunity to ask questions, because they might have heard something in the last session, gone home for a few days or a week or something, and they've been thinking about it, and they've been praying about it, and they have questions. And now you need to give them the opportunity to ask questions and try and help them understand what they did not understand. So that was number 4, is do revision of the previous sessions. Number 5, watch the session. You want to now watch the video. Now, before you literally switch on the unit and start playing the video, you want to give a brief introduction to the session. You want to give them an idea of what this is going to be about. And again, remember, not long. You don't want to give them point by point what the next session will be about. You just want to give them a rough idea, something like, today, this teacher will teach us about evangelism, and he is very experienced in this, and this will really be a session we can apply to our lives. So just something brief. And then if you are starting a new course, let's say you've finished God's ways and now you want to start on spiritual gifts, you have to introduce the course, its purpose, and its teacher. So in order to do that, you need to go before the time and maybe read up about it, or you might want to watch 1 or 2 sessions of this new course so that you have an understanding. So here in this introduction, before you start this video, before you start this new course, you want to say, today we are starting spiritual gifts, and this is really to help you to understand the spiritual gifts that are inside of you that God wants you to use. And it is going to be, let's say, 10 sessions, and you just give them that introduction. You also want to tell them more about the teacher. Who's the person that is busy teaching them today? So then, once you have done that, then you literally start the video, and later on we will teach you how to use the unit and how to connect it and all those kind of things. But at this stage, you literally start the video and let them watch it. Now, during the video, you as the facilitator want to take notes while everybody is watching this. Because afterwards, you want to, in a gentle way, test their comprehension, that they understand what they were hearing. And also you want to trigger discussion. Discussion is extremely important. And if you are going to be doing other things, you're busy on your cell phone, or you're thinking about other things, and now afterwards you have to lead discussion, then it's going to be very difficult for you. So during that time, make sure that you take notes and have questions ready for the students. So that was point number 5, is where you actually watch the video. Point number 6 is after the video, discussion. So number 6, discussion. As I've said, at this point, the video is finished, the students are ready, and you ask a few questions to trigger these discussions. Remember, a good facilitator is not someone who speaks a lot and it's almost like you're teaching and preaching the whole time. A good facilitator is really someone that gets other people talking. So through asking questions and triggering this discussion, you're being a good facilitator. So you ask questions, then you need to look out for students that need counseling. And I want to say, especially when you are busy with the character development courses right in the beginning of life school, remember these teachings were designed to look at people's lives and see, what is there maybe in their past they have not dealt with, help them to see those things, help them to deal with those things. So after you've watched the video and as you're having these discussions, try and see if you can see a student that were really touched by these teachings, or they say something, or even in their notes later on they write something, and you see that this student needs help, this student needs counseling. Look out for that during this discussion time. Some of the students you could counsel right there in the group, in the class. Somebody might say a question in the class like, should I forgive my brother? Well, that's an easy one. You can say to that person and to the group, yes, you have to forgive your brother because the Lord teaches us to do that. But other things might be more difficult to handle, and you don't want to handle it in the class. You want to handle it one-on-one. And in cases like that, you want to say to that student, come see me afterwards, or can we meet tomorrow, and then we will discuss this. Some of the counseling might be too difficult for you to handle, and you might have to go to your pastor and say, Pastor, I've got this situation, I don't know how to handle it, please can you come with and let us counsel this person. And in any ways, I think as the facilitator, it's good and right for you to understand what is your church's policy when it comes to counseling. They might have a policy that is very different from what I'm explaining, so rather ask your pastor how they handle those things. I want to mention one general rule about counseling, and that is that men should never counsel women alone. A man and a woman should not be counseled alone. If it's a man counseling a woman, he should have another woman with him. If it's a woman counseling a man, they should have another man or woman with them in that situation. We've seen too many people that have broken that rule, leaders that think they are above this rule, they break the rule and then they pay a very great price for that. So number 6 then is the discussion and looking out for any people needing counseling. Point number 7 is remind your students about the next class. They need to know when and where the next class will be. Because remember now, the next class might be 2 days from now, it might be 2 weeks from now, there could be holidays and vacations and things going on, so they will not be at the class for a few weeks in some cases, and they need to be sure when the next class will be. You also want to remind them to write their one-page notes. You are the teacher, and just like a teacher says to students, go do your homework, you have to remind them to do that. In the beginning, they need to understand that you are going to collect those. They need to understand that they will not graduate if they don't write their one-page notes. So this is something you want to reinforce just before they leave the class. Then there might be some admin matters you want to discuss with them and some outreach matters. It could be that somebody owes you a form or a document or maybe notes from a previous time or something. And this is a good time to discuss that kind of thing. You also want to talk to them about outreach. It might be that, this coming weekend you're going to reach out to a certain area and you've got to tell them what time to be where, what to wear, and what kind of ministry you're going to do. So you have all those kind of discussions at this point. And then lastly, just before the session is over or before they leave, you close in prayer. And I think this could just be a brief prayer. It's not a whole group prayer necessarily. It could be, but you close in prayer before you dismiss. So folks, those are the 7 steps that, as I said earlier, if you apply them and use them maybe mechanically in the beginning, they will come naturally later on. And to just remind you what they are is, firstly, to be prepared before the students arrive. Number 2 is collect the one-page notes and complete your attendance register. Number 3 is start your class with prayer and worship. Remember to keep that short. Number 4 is do revision of the previous session or sessions. Number 5, introduce and watch the session. Number 6 is facilitate discussion and any ministry that is needed from that. And number 7 is remind them about the next class and speak about administration and outreach. Now, I hope you understood that. I believe it's easy and practical. And now, if time allows, your trainer here today is going to ask one of you to take one live school session, go by yourself and prepare and use these 7 steps and think how you will present a class. And then you're going to come back to this group and you're actually going to teach a session using these 7 steps. And for those of you who will be listening to the presenter, this is not to be critical in any way. We want to encourage one another, but we also want to see, did the student, this presenter, did they apply the 7 steps? This is usually an enjoyable thing to do, and I do pray that you enjoy it, and it will give you a very good feel for what it looks like when we present a class using the 7 steps. So that's how we present a class using 7 steps in Live School. Thank you very much.